The XC40 was a first from Volvo, not only because of its compact SUV design, but also it ushered in Volvo's new design character of launching a car with the intent of releasing a full EV version and a plug-in hybrid without changing chassis. This approach has now been adopted by many other manufacturers that realise that just because someone wants a hybrid car or an EV, they don't necessarily want something that isn't easily recognised as a conventional car. The XC40 would however receive a name change for the EV version in 2024 to the EX40. Both are built on the CMA platform that is shared with other brands owned by Geely, so the Polestar 2, Lynk & Co 01 and Geely Galaxy L7 all share underpinnings. The Belgian Volvo plant maintains a European production of the XC40, while others are built in China, Malaysia and India. Depending on where you are in the world will designate where the Volvo that you can buy is locally built. It is worth noting that those looking at the XC40 will want a 2023 model onwards if they want a mild hybrid model. Before this, the engine is either limited to conventional output or plug-in hybrid models. For those looking for a diesel option, it is up to 2020 production, with some 2021 models sold, after Volvo publicly announced a turn away from diesel engines, which they furthered in 2024 by announcing the company would not only say goodbye to diesel engines entirely, but has scrapped efforts to make combustion engines by selling their stake in Urbe, Sweden, which makes and researches combustion engines. Volvo said at the time they were now only interested in electric powertrains. However, more recently they have said they will continue mild hybrid engines on cars like the base XC40, as sales were clearly going to be heavily impacted by the car maker's previous goals of stopping all production in 2025, as EV orders were not strong enough for a transition. This has extended the life of the current XC40, which was originally facelifted in 2022, to end its production in 2025. Instead, it has been facelifted again for 2026 model year cars, as Volvo did with the larger XC90 and XC60. Facelifts are mild across the range. The return of the rear-driven Volvo model may not come in the hot wagon variant of old, but the XC40 did bring back a rear-driven regular model in the lineup, something not offered for nearly 3 decades prior. Although this is the electric-only model from 2023 onwards, other offerings are more commonly all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive. The XC40 was also the winner of European Car of the Year award back in 2018, so while Volvo may not be sure of their future lineup, the XC40 will likely continue to be in high demand both on the new and used market. Sales strengthened in 2023 on announcements the XC40 would continue for longer than expected. Only a single wheelbase is available for the XC40, no long wheelbase model is offered, but as standard a respectable 2.7 metres or 106.4 inches makes it competitive against others in class for interior room. I'll note that both the C40 and EC40 models share much of the XC40 model, but will focus on the XC40 in particular throughout this guide. Safety scoring is as expected from Volvo, a full 5 stars at Euro NCAP, and a Safety Pick Plus award from American IIHS in 2022, although this was without a perfect safety score. Now onto the common faults, and a reminder to consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy car guides, as you never know what you might buy next. And a thank you to channel members for the ongoing support, helping us create guides that may not be so popular, but are valuable to lots of buyers nonetheless. First off are a series of potential issues with safety systems. Most notable is the automatic emergency braking, or AEB. Some owners found this just to be a software fault, while others needed a safety recall. I will note this is not the first car to suffer with this issue, and early AEB systems are known to suffer on damp mornings with bright sunlight, as the reflecting light from the ground can stun the sensor and deactivate it. The wired connection for Apple CarPlay faced multiple issues with a lot of complaints. The most noted were not recognising the phone first time. Owners said that if it worked twice a month they would be happy. Most of the time the car had to be restarted several times to get it to work. Software updates over the years have improved the issue, but not totally resolved it. When on a test drive, listen out for interior trim panels for any light scratching noise or a rattle. Multiple owners said that the worst offender was the trim panel behind the steering wheel, rubbing on either the wheel or the lower and upper dash. Dealers struggled to resolve this, but owners placing strategic felt pads did remove the noise. If fitted with a rear view camera, check around the plastic housing for any signs of cracks or that it is coming loose. This part was expensive to replace, and for many owners it is also a long wait to get the part. The screws holding the panel on are usually to blame, either working loose or having a previous repair that has over-tightened them. The next note is for owners with a sunroof or panoramic roof. You may hear a gurgling or water rushing noise. This is the sunroof drain, and although not a fault, can be worrying. This can be a result of the drains partially blocking and then enough water collecting to create pressure above the strength of the blockage. Cleaning the sunroof drains with a cheap tool that you can buy online is a good idea to do at least once over the winter and autumn weather. Failures of the regular 12-volt battery have been reported, with users of the car's app seeing shut down suddenly while the car has been working the day before. These problems have been varied and fortunately quite rare, but the same number of cars affected usually took a couple of attempts to resolve, so it's worth asking if the car has ever suffered a dead battery. Most owners reported faulty software drawing power from the battery when it should have shut off power demand. If fitted with a power tailgate option, prior to 2022 models suffered with failures of the struts. These were redesigned in 2022. The problem can sometimes be water ingress. Others have seen the struts rust or the plastic body fail. Later cars generally have a metal body on the strut, so a good visual inspection is advised on earlier cars, as the replacement parts can be quite expensive, although I found several reports of owners getting contributions of up to 70% for cars with full Volvo service history after they reported strange noises from the struts. On test drive, listen out for any clunks or knocks from the front suspension. The XC40, along with several other Volvo SUVs, has got a reputation for wearing front anti-roll bar bushes and drop links quickly. Although not a big issue to replace them, it's worth negotiating a repair or discount to get the work covered, as if you get it sorted early, you'll avoid uneven tyre wear. If you regularly experience very cold weather, then note that actuators for the fuel filler cap can fail after a few years. The repair isn't too complex, but a big inconvenience if you only find the failure when you need fuel. Any wind noise at higher speeds on test drive will likely be a door seal. Most of these reports were on cars over 5 years old, and although a garage should identify the issue quickly, it was very annoying for owners that tried to track down the issue themselves. I will add that while these are common faults, they do come amid a sea of owner reports spanning 6 years that say the car has been almost entirely reliable, with only 1 or 2 minor issues, and thankfully, while it's worth checking all the above issues, most cars will only suffer from a software-related issue, although the drop links and front arm bushes appear common across the years and specifications. Next, the recalls, and a quick reminder to consider buying the Miles Driven book for some light reading material on your next holiday or a quiet Sunday. In 2018, there were 3 recalls, the first for the locking mechanism on the rear seats, the second due to a small batch of cars having a brake pedal missing rivets, then a wider Volvo recall due to the GPS not functioning for emergency services if the car was in a collision. There was a single recall in 2020, this is for the automatic emergency braking as previously mentioned. A software or hardware replacement was carried out depending on the issue. In 2021, there were 3 more recalls, again beginning with a wider Volvo recall for seat belts due to a locking retractors activating early, then a second recall for the bolt that secures the crossmember for the electric motor on hybrid and EV models due to its torque from factory being out of tolerance, while hybrid models had another recall that year due to the energy control module having a microprocessor that may reset randomly. In 2022, there were 2 recalls, one for the brakes across various Volvo models due to a diagnostics error on the module controlling the anti-lock brakes. The second was similar to the earlier recall for the eCall emergency response system, needing a software reset, this time due to falsely identifying collisions. In 2024 and 2025, there was a single recall each year. Both were software errors that either caused a backup camera to not show on the in-car display or the left side indicator to not function correctly. Next is the engines, and there is a full mix on offer, and the one big plus is that while searching the faults most affecting the XC40 and EX40, the propulsion system ranked low on report, showing that overall these are fairly consistent for owners in longevity. However, there are always things to look out for. First up is the short-lived diesel model, sold from launch in the D4, was followed within a few months by the D3. Power is rated at 148 brake horsepower and 187 brake horsepower, and the D3 can be specified as just front-wheel drive in some markets. The 2-litre diesel engine is coded D42, and production ceases in 2020, losing the most fuel-efficient engine. with the official Volvo cycle of 44.1 miles per gallon or 6.41 litres per 100 kilometres. Earlier versions of the engine did have reports of blocked oil drains, however this appears resolved prior to the XC40 production. Aside from that, the engine can suffer an issue with the valve cover gasket to leaking, but this does appear a rare issue and not common on well-kept models. As many of you may have heard me say before, emissions equipment on diesel models does start to report issues at roughly 8 years old. Usually the EGR and a failing DPF regeneration becomes problematic as the worn components start to struggle. Most garages will just quote to swap out the parts with new ones, which will certainly resolve the issue, but many owners found that a good long drive on a somewhat regular basis does extend the life of the emissions equipment. Overall, the diesels have a good reputation, and while many miss the old Volvo diesels that were known to last forever, the XC40 is well understood to get good fuel economy within class. If, like Volvo though, you've said goodbye to diesel, there is a selection of petrol and hybrid options. The first option is a later arrival, which is the T2 model available from 2020, which shares an engine with the T3, which is available from 2018. The T2 gets 127 brake horsepower, while the earlier T3 has 161 brake horsepower. The 1.5 litre engine is coded B3154 and is a 3-cylinder, meaning official fuel economy is rated at 38.7 miles per gallon or 7.3 litres per 100 kilometres. There is a mix of experience on the T2 model, and it will largely depend on how you drive and what power you are used to having. Some owners say it was perfectly adequate, while others say it was just a bit too slow and they ended up moving up to a T3 or even the T4 model to get the power they were used to. Reliability has been fairly good so far. An interesting note on longevity, this engine is the same one that is used in London taxis since 2017 as a generator, essentially using the engine to charge the battery, while the drive is done solely with electric motors. This puts the engine in a limited power mode, and while it isn't suffering the wear of varying RPM as if it were connected to the wheels, longevity has been impressive. The benefit for Volvo was to get the new London taxi design to pass regulations. A lot of testing had to be conducted on the 1.5 before it reached the XC40. Looking back over to Volvo, and so far complaints have been limited. Some have suffered a variety of oil issues, including leaks, but these were rare, and so I'd say just have a good look around the engine for any signs of fresh oil, but don't expect to find one. The T4 and T5 recharge models both use the same 1.5 litre engine in the plug-in hybrid setup. You may find the earliest versions named twin engine. For the T4, it's a combined 211 brake horsepower. The T5 has either a single electric motor, making combined 261 brake horsepower, or a dual electric motor for a combined 305 brake horsepower. That dual motor model may be called a T6 in your local market. Electric range will vary on the region, as international testing on PHEVs does vary, but European tests result in 26 to 28 miles or 41 to 44 kilometers of range. Reliability of the electric motors has been good so far, and the engine appears well suited to the hybrid setup, likely due to its original design brief mandating a hybrid use case. After this is the 2-litre engine coded B42, which is widely used across larger Volvo models and is named the T4 and T5. However, I did find some regions also quote this as a low-powered T3 on an early 187 brake horsepower version, but for most of you watching, the 187 brake horsepower is offered from 2018 onwards on a T4 model, with the T5 then having 244 or 246 brake horsepower, and in some markets 249 brake horsepower, all dependent on the year and region, as the engines become mild hybrid or MHEV from 2020, but all are coded the same B42. The mild hybrid engines will generally be called B4 or B5 in most markets. This is also a late edition of a B3 with 161 brake horsepower, which is the lowest power variant and only sold as a mild hybrid. Some owners did report oil consumption, and early engines had a poor performance with E10 fuel, which is mandated in many countries, although this appeared to not be due to a mechanical fault, and most were for an early engine mapping issue. A number of owners suffered carbon build-up, but were able to get this blasted and removed, which returned previous losses in engine performance. The most common issue resulted from poor servicing. The B42 is known, like several other modern 2 litres, to suffer a variety of problems if servicing is missed, and owners have bought one cheap because it doesn't come with the paperwork, have seen a variety of issues from the timing of the engine to emissions equipment needing replacement, although fortunately engine failures, even with poor servicing records, are rare. The electric XC40 is originally called XC40 Recharge and then the EX40. A dual motor model will kick off sales for most markets in 2020 with 402 brake horsepower. This was followed by a front-wheel drive model from 2021 with 228 brake horsepower, and then the later edition of a rear-driven model with either 235 brake horsepower or an extended range version with 249 brake horsepower. The range varies, but unsurprisingly, the dual motor and the smallest battery version have the lowest range. The dual motor initially has 260 miles or 418 kilometers, but a larger battery from 2023 boosts official scoring to 333 miles or 536 kilometers. The smallest battery is 69 kilowatt hours and has 264 miles or 425 kilometers of range for the front-wheel drive model. The rear drive for the same 69 kilowatt hour battery gets 295 miles or 474 kilometers. However, the extended range rear driven model is the winner of range with its 82 kilowatt hour battery, achieving 354 miles or 569 kilometers of total range. I'll note that the 2023 cars get revised charge capability and so support a maximum of 175 kilowatts, while earlier cars are limited to 150 kilowatts, although this is still above the level of the majority of chargers people will find available outside of the rapid charge stations. For Alpix, the 1.5 engine paired with a hybrid system appears to not only get good owner feedback, but on the used market are competitively priced in countries that had incentives towards low emission vehicles and not just EVs. The 2-litre will be a good option for those wanting to spend a bit more for top specifications and not rely on a battery, so those thinking of decade-long ownership costs and are worried about batteries may prefer this. For those wanting a good family commuter around the city that have good access to chargers, they'll likely want to consider the EV model, and with residual values generally not as strong on the EV version, these can be more competitive on price than the hybrid. If the XC40 isn't for you though, we have guides on the Jaguar E-Pace, Volkswagen Tiguan and Audi Q5 along with others to check out next.